Hello, today we are going to talk about the graphical user interface designer for the QML programming language that exists inside of the Qt Creator. This is this button in the left hand side with the tooltip switch to design mode Control 3. You must open a project in Qt Creator, then you open a QML file. So that's the second step. And the third step is that you should have the QMlDesigner plugin enabled in Qt Creator. So let's do that. In Qt Creator, in the main menu, Help, About Plugins, and you scroll to Qt Quick, and the QMlDesigner plugin is not enabled by default, so you need to manually enable it. So enable this checkbox. Okay. It requires that you restart Qt Creator. I accept. And now, since a project is open in Qt Creator, we have opened main.qml, which is a QML file in the Qt Creator Integrated Development Environments text editor. Now we can just switch to design mode, Control 3. And this is how the graphical user interface QMlDesigner plugin of Qt Creator looks like. So again, it's in a very prominent place. This switch to design mode, Control 3, left hand side big button with a pencil icon and the text design, but it's not enabled by default. It's not that stable. It might misbehave, but if it does, the solution is you just restart Qt Creator. Okay, so this is the basic view, and I'd want a view that has both the source code QML file and the 2D what you see is what you get graphical user interface editor. For that, we switch the active workspace from basic to views all, and then we close in here what we do not want, and it seems that it has remembered what I closed previously, so I close the 3D view because I never use it, and some other tool windows. So I want the tool window with source code, the tool window with 2D what you see is what you get editor. Then I have the navigator, which is the viewer for the hierarchy of QML objects. There's also the file system, open documents. So these two file system and open documents also exist in the edit view. This is the open documents tool window, and this is the file system tool window. Okay, this is open documents. This is the projects tool window, which is this one in edit mode. Okay. So in design mode, we have the properties. We need to select a QML object, such as the button for close, for open with text open. Where were you? It disappeared. Okay, so I've selected the open button either by clicking in the GUI editor or by clicking in the QML code text editor. Okay, let's see what it has. So it has text open. This text could be a binding. There's a reset button if it's a binding. And this is text. There's also support for translation. Enter to accept the change of the text inside of the properties tool window for the text property. Okay. Control S to save and apply. If you edit in the QML code editor. Okay. There's most of the things that you can do in QML to an object available as properties, but it's not always obvious where is that property, because it has no way that I know of to sort the properties alphabetically, so it's just grouped view, not sort alphabetically by property name. And then there's also attached properties and layout editors, and there's support again for binding, for resetting to the default value, which is presented in a graphical way inside of the properties tool window, which takes a bit of time to actually figure out how they represented the various possibilities. So we know how to do things in QML in the source code, but we not always know how to do the same thing using the properties tool window. So we'll need to edit the QML file and then see how it's actually represented in the properties tool window. Okay. So I do not need to save the QML file. If possible, and if the GUI designer for QML does not encounter any issues, it will apply. So it tries to keep in sync the QML text editor, the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get GUI editor, and the properties tool window. So I edited the QML inside of the QML text editor. I've added an ID for the close button, and for the button which previously was open, now the property text is actually a binding towards the text property of the close button object. And all of these three tool windows are now in sync. So the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, GUI editor, the QML text editor, and the properties tool window. We can see that the correct button is selected in all of these three places. So 1, 2, and 3. It says component type button. Then we can see the text. So the text in the GUI editor is close. In the text editor is a binding towards close button.text. And in the properties tool window, it says that text is bound to this thing. Okay. By clicking on the binding icon on the two on this chain icon. So I click on it. We can do alias, we can do binding, and we can reset. So let's see what set binding does. Set binding opens a binding editor. So there's a GUI editor for bindings. If you want to create bindings not in straight in the QML source code, but with using some no code tools, so or little code tools, less code tools, whatever. It's the name these days for this thing. Okay, so the close button text is what's bound to the open button text property. So we can select another object that is named, so has an ID, such as top button row, and then some suitable properties of that object. Okay. Then reset just deletes the property. So back to where we were, text, close. Okay. So again, getting so we only know how to edit the QML source code, and getting to know how that is represented in the GUI editor and in the properties tool window takes a while and takes some experience. Okay, there's also support for creating handlers for signals, which is this thing. So we want to put on the button close button. So plus close button on clicked yes. What does it do? By default, console log clicked. We can select another signal handler. So the signals clicked is a signal, and on clicked is a signal handler, which is actually a QML property. Okay, we can select another signal handler on key up. There's no such thing. On resize, on width changed, this thing. Okay, and it uses this way of specifying binding, so it doesn't use the on width changed property of the button. Instead, it uses a connections block. Okay, so this thing, horizontal center, so the top button row is a QML object of type row. We can see it shown here in the GUI editor. Let's make this smaller. Okay, so it's this row, and this is anchors top parent top. Let's see how this is represented in the properties tool window. So says component row, ID top button row correct, and then at layout, it says anchors component to the top. So this thing, anchors target parent and top, and then anchors horizontal center, this thing. So target for the horizontal center is parent, and the target for top is still parent. Okay, so there's editors for signal handlers, editors for layout with the property anchors. There's Z order, all of the properties of item and other QML types. Local custom properties. Okay, so there's predefined editors inside of the properties tool window for the properties and QML types that are known to Qt Creator and are defined in the Qt framework, and for the custom QML types that you define either in QML types or in C++, etc. Those are probably the additional properties that you provide in your custom controls, in your custom QML types. Will probably have simpler, not that graphical editor inside of the properties tool window. Okay. There's the list of QML types. There's the types that are defined inside of this project, which there's only one, the button. Okay. It's available in the palette under main components. And then there's default components, basic, views, positioner, animation, component including repeater. Okay. What I suggest again is that you switch the active workspace to views all, and then you close all of the tool windows that you don't really need, like, I don't know, open documents or projects or navigator or whatever is extra for you. Okay. So we know how to enable, let's save the file. Again, the Qt Creator Integrated Development Environment plugin needs to be enabled from here. QmlDesigner. Let's see how I installed Qt Creator. So I installed Qt Creator from the Qt.io, so the Qt website. I've downloaded the online installer. And I've selected the following components. So I have Qt Creator, the latest version that's available in the online installer. This is probably selected by default, the Qt Creator, CMake, and Ninja. Okay, I have OpenSSL and the source code of OpenSSL, and then in order for me to have a Qt version and enough Qt modules and QML, Qt declarative, etc., such that I can run existing examples, such as this Git repository kdub, github.com/kdub/kdubtv. I've also installed a Qt version, and I went with the newest, latest Qt version. That's not 6.5, because for 6.5 I encountered some issues, such as some other source code repositories were not updated for Qt 6.5, so that's why I went with Qt 6.4.3. And in here I unselected all of the web things, all of the 3D things, and all of the mobile phone things. So I unselected WebAssembly, Android, Qt Quick 3D, Qt 3D, Quick 3D Physics. Okay. I've also not checked sources, but now I cannot navigate to CPP files from the Qt framework. Okay, so installing Qt using the online installer is optional if you have, for instance, Qt provided by your Linux distribution, or you're building it using KDSRC-build. Okay. And the support in Qt Creator for the QmlDesigner does not depend on Qt Design Studio. So I do not have Qt Design Studio installed. Okay. So let's open again Qt Creator. Let's see an example, a sample application. One with Qt Quick. Configure project. In general messages, it runs cmake. It's successful. We can run it. And this is how it looks like. Let's see if we have a QML file in here. Audio control design. Okay, it looks like this. So there's a back to views all. The top level item for this control, custom control, is an item. And export some properties. The ID is root. Okay, what's this thing? It's the mute button. Which is what? Is this round button. Okay, and then there's the slider, which is this thing, volume slider. Okay. Ooh. Okay, file closure projects and editors. Then example from KDAP TV. The extension is QML project. I'm just drag and dropping the file with extension QML project. Okay, where is the application? Let's see how it looks like. So this thing, easing curves. Okay. Not all of the QML files can be edited in the QmlDesigner that's inside Qt Creator, because the C++ source code might expose models or types that are then used, or functions that are then used inside of the QML source code, whereas the designer only sees the QML source code. Okay. main.qml. So there's a light steel blue square. That's border radius with border radius 8. And the rectangle with the gradient, which is the path. There's a container and then a repeater. And repeaters are not represented that well inside of the QML editor. Okay, so that's it. Qt Creator, the integrated development environment, does have a QML graphical user interface editor, so similar to the forms editor in Embarcadero Delphi, in Visual Studio XAML, in Visual Studio System Windows Forms, etc. Thank you.